know what? Our flag is hiding back here still.
You can put it on.
Did everyone see the flag? It's behind the bench and salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Let's have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Welcome to our monthly meeting. It's good to see you all. We are here to accomplish the business of schools for the sake of our students. We do want to hear from our citizens. There will be time for public comment prior to our action items on the agenda. We ask the speakers to identify themselves and their home district. If you don't know your district, we'll help you out with that. We also ask that your comments are limited to 3 minutes in order to provide equity to all speakers and ensure our meeting is reasonable in length. If you have more information that can be summarized in 3 minutes, please leave behind materials for the board's review. The moderator will ask you to conclude your remarks as time has elapsed. If you have questions during the session, you may ask for a clarification from your school board member or school administrator after the meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming. Regarding the agenda, if you have a copy of it, buckle up. Right, I've got to make some changes to it, and it's non-trivial, so I just want to kind of go through what that change is going to look like. And generally, here's what's going to happen. We're going to go into closed session in 2 parts, and we generally had to plan this today after the agenda was published, so here's how it's going to look. We are going to go into closed session as soon as we adopt the agenda. It'll only take 5 minutes. Coming out of that, you'll no longer see item 2.2. We're not going to conclude closed session. We're going to recess from closed session because we're going to have to go back into closed session after this open session is done. All right? So item 2.2 turns into recess closed session. Item 3.1, therefore, will not be happening. And item 3.3 will not be happening because the superintendent will be speaking to any actions from the personnel report during her report. So item 3.3 is not here. Now, flip over to the second page. The section called adjournment will now be number 12. And in its place, item number 11 will be the reestablishment of closed session, the conclusion of closed session, the certification and review of closed session. Any motions that came out of closed session will also be made at that time, and then we will adjourn. Is that clear? So basically, in closed session, beginning, recess, we're going to go through our normal order, and then back at the very end, we're going to have to insert close to conclude personnel actions after we've had a chance to discuss things. Make sense? So really, there's only one closed session. So since we're all sitting here and learning this at the same time, the alternative is I go into closed session, right, with a motion, which Mr. Groves prepared to make. We close that closed session, we certify, and then further on in the agenda, we make the same motion to finish these topics, and we certify again. So rather than do all that, we're just going to recess and then reestablish things later. Right? Now, we've done this in the past. It's probably been 10 years, and it's not a big deal. Right? It just beats having to do things twice. All right? So, given that agenda, is there anybody who would like to make any other modifications to the agenda? Any board members? Oh, are we good? Is there a motion to adopt the agenda? We have a motion, Mr. Groves. Is there a second? Second, Ms. Bynum. All in favor? Is there any discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, no. Now before we take this motion to go to closed session, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to kick you all out. So before I kick you out for 5 minutes, not to exceed 5 minutes, we are celebrating Bynum's and Dr. Griffith's birthdays with some fruit. So here's the thing. I know I'm kicking you out in the hall or outside, whichever one you want to do, but please grab some fruit on your way and enjoy some time with your neighbors. And so at this time, Mr. Grove, would you make a motion to go into closed session?
I will. I move to convene in closed session for the following purpose: discuss and consider the appointment of staff, members of professional, classified, coaching, and volunteer positions, and resignations of a professional staff position and classified position pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.23711A1.
We have a motion on the table for Mr. Grove. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second for Ms. Meyer. All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, no. We're in closed session. So, oh, you're going to take the fruit out. Is anybody that's stuck in here want to get some fruit?
That's not fair.
It's okay.
I know.
All right, save a little bit. Closed session agenda, and one of the motions that will be acted on right now is acceptance of resignations of two individuals from our school system, Mr. R. Razaborski, and Ms. Patty James. Is there a motion to accept these resignations? We have a motion, Mr. Grove. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Bynum. All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, no. So ordered. Donations.
I have four to report. The first one, the FBI, the Engineering Research Facility, in reference to the Stevenson-Wilder Act, donated office furniture and monitors for the school division. Nancy Dishner donated classroom supplies at the elementary school. B&B Signal donated $750, and this was for the softball girls' staterooms for the first night. And we had an anonymous donor of $20, and that was for potlucks, supplies for Commit to Be Fit to use for kids' activities at the Rappahannock Farmers Market.
All right, thank you. Everyone's had an opportunity to read the minutes from June 11th. Is there a motion concerning the adoption of the minutes from June 11th? A motion from Ms. Bynum to accept the minutes. Is there any? We have a second from Mr. Rubin. Is there any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. And the minutes are accepted. Mr. Grove, did you have an opportunity?
I did, and everything's in order.
Thank you. The consent agenda contains acceptance of the bills with a letter of thanks and approval to pay the bills. Did I say that right? And acceptance of the donations. Accept the bills. Acceptance of donations and payments of the bills. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda? A motion from Mr. Grove. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second from Mr. Rubin. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. So ordered. Reports to the superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our first item, 5.1, is the notification of awards for food service bids and also our meal pricing for the next school year. So I'm going to invite Amanda Grove, our school nutritionist and food service director, to talk to us about that.
Good evening. I want to give a quick update for the bids that will be awarded for food service as well as meal prices for this coming school year. So our awards are going to merchants out of Culpeper. This is where the bulk of our groceries come from, including our USDA commodities, Skank Foods for fresh produce, Thornton River where we get our apples, nectarine, peaches, Schmidt Baking for our bread products, Pet Dairy for milk, and then Gardner's Ice Cream for ice cream. We'll also be happy to continue some of our seasonal micro purchases with Local Food Hub, Water Penny, Ryder's Backfield Beef, Papa Weaver's Pork, Bessix Farm Market, and others. Those are some of the local vendors that we use this year that we're really happy with, and we look forward to continuing those relationships. The column to the far right are the meal prices for this coming school year. As you can see, lunch prices were increased by 10 cents. The asterisk represents this is a requirement by DOE through the PLE tool, Paid Lunch Equity tool. We did decide to raise breakfast prices for students by 5 cents. We're hoping, well, breakfast prices haven't been raising a few years, so we're hoping this will help offset the requirement for our lunch increase for next year. 10 cents is the maximum for DOE, and we're so far behind that we do have to do that increase every year. So we're hoping by raising breakfast by a little bit this year, it will kind of offset where we don't have to do the full 10 cents next school year. We didn't raise adults. They were raised the 17-18 school year. So we want to try to have them on alternating schedules. That way for our families, for our staff that have students here, it's on an alternating basis. And just a quick reminder for our free and reduced meal application, this is available all year. It can be filled out at any point. For students that were free and reduced last year, that does roll over to the next school year for 30 operating days, and then we do need a new application. So all students at the beginning of this year will get an application. They're also available in the front offices of the school board in both schools, and then also it can be filled out online from our main school page, rappahannockschools.us. If you scroll to the bottom, you'll see this icon, and it'll take you to a site where it can be done all either online or on the phone as well. Thank you.
I would assume that applying online is a confidential situation.
It is, yep.
If people need to know that, really.
Yep, an extra layer of security and confidentiality online. So it goes right to our office where it's processed, and those are the only eyes that see it. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions? Thanks.
Okay, item 5.2 is the new rate for our out-of-county tuition, and I'll show you the formula we use for that. Basically, you take your total operating budget and remove any state funds, federal funds, grant monies, and come up with your local share of operating funds. For us, that came out to, after applying this formula, to about $7.142 million. We divide that by your projected ADM and come up with your tuition rate. And that's what we come up with. So this year's tuition rate will be $8,657.58 for a non-resident to send their student here for 1 year per kid. So that's the rate, and that's how it's figured out. Any questions about that?
How likely are we to meet the projected daily membership? We don't know that.
ADM is really, we don't know, ADM is fully conjecture until March 31st.
Right.
So it is a complete conglomeration of average daily membership as far as attendance goes, your enrollment numbers, so that formula. So until we send in that state report, we really don't know until that drop-down date. Now, we keep track of that every month. You'll see it on our attendance reports and things to get our best guess. So hopefully, that's a stable ADM projection, but we don't really know. It may, yeah. If we keep the same 6% enrollment decline, it's right.
And how many students do we have this year using this?
Currently, right, well, we still haven't finished all registrations for the kindergarten class and everything, so.
Last year.
ADM
Was it-
came in as
No, not
7.
ADM. How many students were using the Atlas?
Oh, the tuition, we had one graduate, yeah. Mhm.
What was last year's
Afterwards, we actually lost quite a few to social services, and then you cannot count them in your ADM. So when we figured all that in, we were around 7, I think it was 786
Wow.
after you
You
removed all
need
of
to
them.
explain the loss of the social service.
When a child goes into social services and receives CSA funding to support in foster care services and things like that, you're receiving state funding a different way. So you can't also double dip and count that in ADM funding. So that goes that way. So they receive. We still, yeah, the child is still with us. We still maintain educational records and have to report for that student, but because the funding stream is coming a different way, the state deducts that from our ADM count in our report. So you've seen the increase we've had in our CPS cases and things and that go through CSA funding and social services. So that automatically results in our deductions.
You could lose 24 kids to social services and lose 24 ADM.
Depending on the funding streams and things, right, so you can. And then there's other direct deductions for alternative ed placements and special ed placements and things like that, so. We saw quite a bit of that this year, unfortunately, on top of our regular enrollment decline just from a lack of, our population.
If a kid goes to social services and we trained all of these new adults to be foster parents in the state and county.
Mhm.
The funding still goes to foster social services, but the kids stay in the school.
Can be, yeah, exactly. It's going to be a great, I know a lot of effort has been done. Melissa Cuff has been great with Jen Parker at Social Services, and I know we've gotten already 10 families for being foster care families here in the county, with some respite, some permanent, which really does help the overall county, and just bringing our kids home. You know, they're being outplaced all over the place, and that's really difficult and costly, you know, to have to outsource those services. So. We're really pleased with that. Hopefully that will bring it up as well. So it all helps the whole community. So that will,
And maybe we can
question.
also get the lead car.
yes. Working on that too. All right, item 5.3 is on your agenda as an action item later too. These are your annual resolutions. Helps us pay the bills and operate our payroll and how we manage our sick leave and pay bills. So these happen every year. BPSA technology, that's the $102,000 technology reimbursement we rely on for the state for our network upgrades and things like that. So please approve those so we can make sure we get those revenues in. You're there to take a look at it. Any questions about those? They're our regular run-of-the-mill we do every July. I just wanted to take a moment to update the board about the Leadership Academy. That took place on June 19th and 20th, and that's when the administrative team does our annual professional development and really analyzes our leadership model. And this year, the theme of that was Turn the Ship Around, which actually came out of a conversation that I was having with Mr. Curry, actually about our leadership model from the past year, which was Leaders Eat Last. And we really studied that model of being servant leaders and what does that mean and how do we serve our community in our leadership roles. Turn the Ship Around has a similar theme, but then it brings it to the next level. Okay, now that you've adopted and embraced a model like that, how do you empower everybody now to be leaders and build on the leadership capacity in the building and in our organization? So we likened it to, there's this great quote, I'll just read it real quick. A great leader is not so much a boss as they are like the captain of a sailing ship. The captain of a sailing ship needs crystal clear purpose and clarity in the mission ahead. They have a predetermined definition of success or failure for the mission prior to embarking on their journey. They have absolute knowledge of their vessel and its inner workings. A good captain understands there are many important and critical functions on board they must delegate, as they understand they cannot possibly operate their ship alone. The captain understands the morale of all shipmates is critical to efficiency and teamwork. And that's Richard Marlin, a leadership expert that's also a speaker, but it tied in nicely to our theme. And this will be our professional learning book that the administrative team will study this year. So thank you, Mr. Curry, for that recommendation. The first day, we really analyzed climate, and we did give exit surveys and climate surveys to students and staff at the end of the year. We really looked at that data to see what it was telling us about the organization and how that has to inform all of our practice, and it was really, really helpful. We started it off with an icebreaker of just one word, and this was really funny because we put our whole team in 5 different teams, and the icebreaker was come up with one word that describes the organization. Everybody writes it down and then comes back, and it was really neat. Everyone came up with the same word, and that word was family. And that was just so great. I'm like, yes, okay, so we have the right idea. We do want to operate like a family. We are small, and we appreciate and support one another. So that was great. This took place at Big Meadows Lodge, our first day. And it was just such an ironic thing that happened there because we were giving presentations, and one of the neat ones that Amanda's group actually gave a presentation about, and one of the graphics was a boat that had a hole in one side, and there's a couple of people bailing out the boat. And they're, oh man, we have to work really hard. And then there's 2 people up on the other end of the boat, way up in the air, and they're like, wow, I'm so glad that leak's not on our side of the boat.
Yeah.
We're all in the same boat. Well, and then the ceiling decides to flood, and the whole room started flooding, literally water coming down from the ceiling. So we're going, okay. So someone had left the water on, so Anyway, we saved it. It was sinking. It was just a funny thing that happened. Then we all shared it, and that's a family story we're going to carry with us as we go forward. But it was a great day. We did talk about what a trauma-informed school looks like. We got some updates about special ed and threat assessment training, some required Title IX training we have to do, and also a new school improvement process that the principals will be working on at each of their respective buildings. There's a new process that's been outlined by the state, and they actually released all of their materials finally. It only took a couple of years, but we're very happy. The principals and I attended a conference, a school improvement workshop, to get all the materials and make sure we have all the up-to-date information. So that will be a great process to go through as we map out the improvement in each school. Day 2 of our Leadership Academy took place in a puzzle room in Culpeper, and having never done one of these before, it was our team building day. So I had the pleasure of being locked up in a jail cell while my colleagues were handcuffed to another side of the room as we had to really work together, find all the clues, and navigate the room to figure out how to break out. But it was very team building. Our teams were assembled in such a way that you really work with people that you maybe normally don't. But it was fascinating. It took us an hour and 6 minutes to break out of our room, and there were 3 different rooms that the teams were set up. So if you've never done that, I really highly recommend it. It actually gave us a lot of ideas for what we might be able to do with some STEM training and things with students designing escape rooms, and we have some of the escape tools to use where kids can design their own puzzles and break those. And so it gave us a lot of ideas for instruction and how we might use some of those tools, and also it was great team building and got us replenished and rejuvenated for the next school year as we go. So that was our Leadership Academy this year. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, very interesting. We learned a lot and had some funny experiences too. Any questions about that? It was. Okay, 5.5, band program. Now we get to talk about everything in the open, full disclosure, and I thank everybody so much for their support. I mean, items like this that get out in the small community really shows you the support and advocacy we have in the community for our music programs. So thank you all so much for that. So now we're going to discuss this very much in the open of what we've been thinking about, what's happened. As Mr. Mills mentioned, Mr. Rasaborski did resign. We couldn't really talk too much in the open until the board officially released that contract and accepted the resignation. So I'm sorry, you know how much that must have, it's killing me not to come out and say everything, but until that was official, we didn't really want to go into the full plan. So we're going to talk about this. Band program redesign, which is a pilot proposal, okay? Both those things have temporary connotation, right? Because we're going to have a pilot and it's just a proposal. So and we want to hear from people and go through kind of what we're thinking and why we're doing it, okay? So why in the world are we trying to mess with this amazing band program? I know I keep getting that because it is fantastic. I'm a band mom, so I can tell you I have vested interest in this program, trust me. And I'm a former band student myself. Music is super important. And nobody argues that. This board, the school system, the administration, we all love our band program. So some key considerations that came up, we received the resignation pretty late. And in HR world, in schools, it's a difficult time to hire good talent this time of year because contracts have been signed. A lot of people have gotten all the, picked up some of the best people. The sweet spot for hiring is really April, May, when you go to your recruiting fairs and you get to interview and when we know we have openings. So that's one consideration. It was, the whole thing precipitated, of course, by the late resignation. So the second thing, the principals came to me and said, well, we have some concerns for next year with our numbers and interest forms and things. And the concern was about filling the schedules of both directors based on our numbers. And they says, honestly, for next year's numbers, the elementary director position would really only be from about 115 to 320 to cover 5th, 6th, and 7th grade band. Granted, they do sometimes cover a high school block, which makes sense for the contracted day. That position right now in the budget, when all compensation is figured in, compensation, health benefits, FICA, VRS, all of that together, is $80,000 in the band budget. Okay, so when you're looking at that, that's just a consideration, that there's a lot of hours that go in after that, a lot of help and assistance. We can argue until we're blue in the face that that's important, we should keep it, absolutely. The principals thought, well, and as we talked through it, well, maybe there's a way we can look at reallocating or adjusting to make the best use of those funds too for more kids. So that's part of it. Another need is the mounting needs that the band program has right now. The principals had said that band directors were telling them, well, we need uniforms, we need instruments, we need stands, we need chairs, we need all of this stuff. Band programs are very, very expensive. They should be, they're important, we should support those. But again, with the consideration that you have that one position in just personnel, $80,000 for the need, you just have to look at it, it's just a consideration. So maybe, I'll get into the proposal in a second. Well, an enrollment and schedule, again, both band directors' schedules were not meeting the numbers necessary for a full contracted day. And that presents itself with a teaching equity issue too. I have an amazing drama program as well, the drama person works a full contract day of English, gets a stipend for their additional duties in the evening, and that's a lot of extra work. Just like our teachers who do coaching and all of that. Our band directors are no different, they get stipends as well for their extra needs too. Just looking at it from an equity lens is important too. We have a whole teaching staff that does work a whole contracted day and then also gets stipends for their extra duties. So just key considerations that are all part of the big picture. Okay. So a proposal that we were looking at was if we were to merge the RCHS and RCES band director positions, not into just a teaching position, but more of an administrator. And back to the resignation issue, we also have another concern. We have an incredible, amazing master musician band director at the high school who also happens to be just about finished his administrative master's degree. Okay, so I know that Rappahannock is incredibly enticing, but for a teacher, I don't know that the same issue won't happen here. What if Mr. Gira does get an offer somewhere else because he is amazing and he has a great degree now? What if we could put that to good use and create a supervisor of fine arts or director of fine arts position by merging those? So, and compensating for that, of course. So that's kind of a theory we're looking at. So, and it's not just band either. We're looking at a whole comprehensive picture of fine arts. And I'll get into more of that in a minute. The daily schedule would not change for any students. No sections are being removed at all. We have enough staffing to cover that with this, having a regular contracted day, required planning time, and all these same blocks would be offered. So we would not be removing any sections. We would also, with some of the funding saved, we could create up to 2 assistant director stipend positions to help with some of those things that people are concerned about. The after hours, the trips, those kind of things too. So you wouldn't be at it alone. There needs to be some help, of course, and we understand that. This year, we really want to conduct a needs assessment and program evaluation. This is a pilot, and I love how the petition that you all sent out, I loved it because it did say, we all believe that we need to take a step back and we need to study this and really take our time to decide what's best moving forward. We agree 100%, and that's why we think it's going to take some time to do a comprehensive needs assessment and look at everything, take an inventory of everything, our music program and fine arts, drama, and all of that together, what the needs are, and what the most sustainable program that offers the most for our children looks like. Because that, I'll talk about the process for that in a moment. But this year, while we're studying that, the idea is not to take away any funds from band at all. In fact, it's quite the opposite. We could utilize those funds as we're studying it to take care of some of these mounting needs. So we need some new instruments and some chairs and some stands and whatever. We can look at the inventory based on what Mr. Kira and his team comes up with, but here's the needs for the program as we figure it out. So that wouldn't be funneled away. That would help with the assistant director positions to stipend that. Any needs assessment, maybe materials or something you need for that. We'd like to incorporate musical theater, drama, visual arts, and vocal music into our comprehensive fine arts into like a fine arts academy model, because all of those are key components and are equally important. And we find a lot of times our current program sometimes pigeonholes children to make really difficult academic choices. And we think there should be a lot more offered to them to help nurture those gifts and talents that we see in not just band, but as a whole academy model of fine arts, incorporating these and giving a lot more options. That begins in middle school. We want more offerings for our middle school children to experience drama, musical theater, and there have been talks with some outside agencies to help us make that happen. So we're excited about that. Another piece of it is we'd like to create a music internship independent study for eligible qualified high school students to come down and work with our RCES students. So we do have, Mr. Gura said he has some TAs or other advanced musicians in the band who would be great at helping teach the younger children too. So they could come down. The way the schedule looks like now, that band is in the morning, just like it always has been. There might be another block of guitar, piano, or vocal music, or whatever block there. There's a period in between for lunch and planning, and then the afternoon, 1:15 to 3:20 is all our 5th grade, 6th, and 7th grade. So that's the daily schedule. But in the afternoons, if we have some eligible qualified band students who want to do an independent study or music mentorship or internship, they would have the ability to go down with the director and work with our middle school kids too, helping bridge our programs. So really, we really want to do vertical alignment and bridge those two programs, so it's really a true feeder program. And of course, Mr. Gura would then have oversight of the program and build up based on what he needs and the expectations in the high school. And also some help with summer band camp. We could have summer internships for band camp, so we could have band camp counselors out of our band students as well. That would be paid. And that's a huge resume builder. I saw some questions about, scholarships that we get from band and those type of things. I think a fine arts academy, I completed the fine arts academy and I have a music internship and I helped with the mentorship program and all of those. I think that's even stronger than what we currently have. It could be. And if this is, a proposal, it doesn't mean it's the best way. But it's something we'd like to try. So before any permanent change is made, this is the key part, we do have to conduct, just like we do any other program, if changes are coming for reading, a reading program assessment needs assessment is done, a true program evaluation. We study the needs, we gather lots of stakeholder input, and we want that input and need that. So parents and students and teachers, and we need that input. For a final recommendation to be made to myself and to the board of how it should look like going forward. So this year it's protected in the budget. We can take care of some needs and really study it and really look towards these fine arts components of a more holistic fine arts approach. And there's so much research that supports this. The leading research right now is Casita and Bowen, and that's very recent, that shows that a fine arts comprehensive education it has remarkable impacts on students' academic, social, and emotional outcomes. And also, it says, a lot of schools do what, schools do. They cut these programs, they're expensive, it might be an easy way to find money, but it actually has a detrimental effect on what you're trying to do with students. We get that, we understand that, so we're not trying to cut anything from the program. In fact, we're just looking, is there a better way than just filling a slot for the sake of filling a slot that we have that takes up an $80,000 compensation, or is it better to rethink the model a little and redesign it in a way where we can reallocate those funds and support a more comprehensive program? And that's the proposal. But it's going to take a village for us to do this. And usually when we perform a program evaluation like that, we will have a program evaluation team. I envision somebody working with Mr. Gura that's from the band boosters, some parents, teachers, students, and maybe even some community organizations. There have already been conversations with RAC about a middle school music theater program and helping support that. So I feel like there'll be a lot of support, but we need to get it out there. This is what we're doing. We want to study it. Hopefully to have the evaluation recommendation to this board by February when we're planning for our next budget cycle. So we can say, this is what the team decided is the best model. This sharing the position as a fine arts administrator rather than 2 separate band directors isn't the best model, then that's what needs to be recommended. No, we go back, we have 2, or it's 1 and a part-time, or whatever the model is. But we want to do it carefully, we want to do it slowly and get the most feedback and data possible before we solidify that and make it a permanent thing. But we are going to need a lot of support, and I know Mr. Giro is such a trooper. He's awesome, and he has some great ideas. And as we were brainstorming, he was just rattling off so many ideas he has for middle school, what it's going to take. But it is going to take all of us together to help him. I'm a band parent too. I told him, you need me for a trip. I'm rolling up my sleeves. I'm coming too. So we'll help each other out. So that's the proposal. It's not everything's not set in stone because it's really a learning year. And that's basically what it would be. It would be a placeholder for now, rather than rushing in to try to fill the slot with somebody for the sake of filling it. Or we just take a step back, we take care of some of these needs we know we have. I would love to start a campaign with our band boosters to get those uniforms. We need them. So band boosters and us together could campaign to raise $50,000 for the uniforms. It's a lot of money, but we could do it together, and then what we have left after this campaign, we could fund probably out of this money that's left. So we could get our band uniforms, things like that are difficult to build in. And then as part of the program evaluation, we should have a cycle for these things. So what's the cycle for renewing your instruments? What's the cycle for the uniforms? It shouldn't get to this point, So we need more vertical alignment, we need more communication, but we're gonna need everybody with us to help us figure it out. It's not the end all be all, and it's not going to be the permanent decision. In February, whatever the team brings to us, that's what we will move forward with the superintendent's budget amendment. Okay, so we're not saying this is it, but this is something we've collaboratively come up with to make the best use of the opportunity to explore, thinking creatively with understanding our current numbers and the way things are going. So. I hope that makes more sense and makes people breathe a little easier. I'm so sorry we couldn't get out too much ahead of this, but there are some things we need to talk about first to be sure we could go this route. So
initially,
any questions?
so take a breath.
It was killing me. I needed to talk.
So that the bringing of a proposal in February, that's for the 21 year.
Correct, fiscal year 21.
So in the transition year,
Yes.
one ahead of us. So I might have missed kind of what the options are ahead of us. So are we looking for 2 part-time?
What we would advertise for, we would make,
band director?
Mr. Giro would now become, we have another session to discuss that, but he would essentially become our fine arts director, cover both programs, but also receive an increase in compensation for that, of course, and help manage this whole program evaluation, the inventory, the needs assessment, build the program, and come with his team for the recommendation. We would also advertise for up to 2, if he thinks he needs 2, assistant director stipends, similar to what we do for drama. So something like that, where he could, we'd go through an interview process, here's the job description, here's what's available, and then we would hire 2 of them as well. Stipends.
Like coaching.
Sort of, yeah, like coaching, more stipends that way, so.
Those positions, could they be conducting and directing elementary band, or is that?
It depends on the qualifications of who,
Right.
if we had somebody that could help with that, it depends on availability and those things. The idea that Mr. Gura said that he would need the most help with is for the evening activities and some of those performances, help with chaperoning trips and things like that. So we would come up with that job description based on what he needs for support. I told him, whatever you need, really, tell us what you need. We'll make it happen, build that into the job description. So that's how we'll help support. Plus, we have amazing band parents who always come up to help out any way we can. So I feel like he'll be well supported in this effort to figure things out.
And in terms of, it seems like it's sort of getting more with the same amount of dollars, but reallocating some of the reasons. Is that what you're?
Yeah.
I'm wondering about when you mentioned increasing arts programs, some in the high school too. But
Absolutely.
the high school choir.
Well, yes, we've been wanting to build our vocal music and chorus for a long time. And so there's discussions about that. I know Kevin and I had some discussions about vocal coaching and pieces that we can build into our current program. But we have to build the interest and feed it. So that's part of it, but it's gonna be a vertical alignment on it. If we were to design a fine arts academy, what are the options to take and where would they be offered? And how do we design a schedule where kids aren't pigeonholed into making those choices? I love band, so I can never take an art class, or I can never take this or that. So how can that look differently where we can provide a more holistic approach for whole child development in the fine arts and nurture those talents? Because if we're looking at all of that together, there's a lot more than just that music. We're also looking to design an exploratory course in music, so it's a little bit of, we might have some vocal music and a survey, basically, of instrumental music and vocal music and things like that, just to give an idea of an exploration when you get to the probably 8th or 9th grade level, just in case we haven't gotten it yet, maybe we'll get you. So we're looking at that too, that possibility. There's room in the schedule, and we have set when to do that. So.
We had spoken about middle school is supposed to be kind of exploring different things, and we don't get that a lot with the kind of scheduling we currently have. And it could be interesting to everybody to get a chance to try, I'd not want to try it.
Well, and that's part of Pro Collaborative graduate mandate, which what Ms. Bynum said was it would be great in middle school to have students be able to explore more of those options in the fine arts, because the way the schedule is kind of now and with just one option, it kind of ties them into just picking that or this or this. So if you were to pick a fine arts academy model, what does that academic career plan look like? And as we build different academies in the high school, this would be a strong one. The Fine Arts Academy, we also want to look at a Health Science Academy and some other academies that would design their pathway going through. So that's the big picture that we're looking at through our conceptual framework of profile of graduate. But it's really, to build all of those pieces.
If we can think bigger, we can think towards our wellness initiative, and also that study you mentioned, that Texas study, the 2019 February study.
Could you speak to your microphone?
Yeah, that is the February study from Texas. What it said was, school climate really improves, bullying goes down. There's a lot that if we can get more kids participating in these programs, some of our other objectives of having a better school environment. If Mr. Gira is as awesome as we think he is, it's possible that we could, and if we hire enough, hire what we need, it can touch career options and it can touch life readiness. And I do think it's, just because this is a small school, I don't think that we need those limited.
Yeah, the only concern, so I see a band director that's already here a lot. So I'm thinking the guy's gonna buckle, and then I'm thinking it was his idea. And so I'm concerned about it mentally, I'm not concerned about it. It seems like a lot. And then, I'm just expressing kind of the things that I think some of the things I've been hearing, and some of them to me are, I just see a very busy man already. I'm wondering what kind of assistant directors he might get that are going to be enough help for him to manage both things over the course of this coming year while we're creating the proposal for the following. But I do know, if we say, we're going to go back to the original model, we might not get what we want, because the options are not going to be great at this point for hiring the right person. So I understand that too. But I guess my biggest concern is whether the man will buckle. And I know your intentions are good luck. You're in school, yourself, you're already here when the sun comes up and when it goes down, right? So that's really my biggest concern. And I know that you're thinking big and getting the big picture. And I like the academy. I really do. I love the academy idea and the ability to move in and out. I just don't. I'm more concerned about this coming school year, what might happen. Because kids don't get a do-over for an entire year, and so what's that year going to be like for them? That's my biggest concern. But we'll never take. How do you step over the Grand Canyon? Do you take the first step? We're going to take a step to learn, because there's no other way for us to accomplish it except for something like this. Otherwise, we'll stay in our old model.
Mhm.
We lost other teachers and other areas of expertise, and we reformed those departments to better fit profile of a graduate, where the needs were really at, and to try to just create a better path for students. We did it with biology, if I remember
Earth science.
right, earth science,
Yeah.
and so there are opportunities like this. If we don't take them, we will do business as usual.
Mhm.
And so I'm intrigued by it, but I'm also very cautious about
Of course.
what
And you
we're going to
remember-
try to bite off and what we're going to lay
Sounds like it needs a second.
in Jason's lap. So
Well, and if you remember last year, he was working on a master's as well as being administrative assistant to the principal and a lot of other things. So having different duties dedicated solely to fine arts, I think it might loosen up quite a bit of that too, using support. But yeah, it's going to take a lot of time and effort, but you know, compensated for that.
How does he feel?
How do you feel, Jason?
Yeah.
speak up, man. So you're part of an architect of this. I would assume you played some role as an architect.
You don't need to.
You could come up.
Respond if you don't want.
I mean, sure. We're going to have to.
Come on, it's my room, so I used to my teaching.
We gotta,
Yeah.
we gotta get it all on the table.
It's something I've struggled with, for being honest. I, for 5 years, I've had a really great assistant, and we have worked side by side, and I've been able to lean on him, he's leaned on me, and we've worked to be able to use our strengths and weaknesses individually to make a better opportunity for kids. And I recognize that, and I observe that. But I also get the situation we're in, and I am willing to be capable of putting the tools together to make this happen. Put it that way. No matter what I'm going to put in 100, I'm going to make it work. And that's the part I struggle with this whole point. I do have trouble with the word no. It is a declarative sentence, I know that. I want to do what's right for kids in the long run. And that's ultimately, I think, the big thing for me is that if we do this, can we have a better result in the end? I think so. That's what I got.
But you're gonna need help.
Absolutely.
And you can't be bashful about needing help.
I
mean, I'm serious about a secretary or
And it has to
bookkeeping
be-
and stuff. You're gonna need something.
Well, and as much as I hesitate to say this, because I was an administrator this year, there are quite a few things that I've taken on over the years that I've absolutely been like, yeah, that was a lot of time and effort, that wasn't a lot of work, that we could just do without. Or I've leaned on the band boosters more. So that will absolutely be a helpful part of where my time goes. You know, and like Dr. Grimsley said, I am still in my master's, so my perception of where I'm spending my time, you know, as a teacher, it all blurs together where I'm working on my master's and working on schoolwork. And so my perception of how much time I spend working is blurred, absolutely. I don't know what else.
You said you can make it work, is it just something you want to do? That's enough.
If we're being honest,
If
if
you're unhappy, we need to know now.
Right.
well,
I don't
and I
want to
told,
start, but we need to know now. So that influence the whole thing. It's not overwhelming overall.
here's the problem I have. I absolutely love the model. I will say it, I'll put it out there. I've enjoyed having assistant director, and I've enjoyed having the ability to work side by side with somebody for the block. I mean, Brian and I had basically a matching schedule, you know, before the admin thing, where he was in the first block with me here, we both taught a second block class, and then we went to the elementary school. We were able to work side by side so that, you know, it was really great because he was a sax and percussion guy, so I'm a trombone, brass guy. So here, work with them real quick while I work with them, great, let's put it together. Boom. And we definitely were able to build a program and make it what it is today because of that. on the flip side of that, I absolutely have concerns because it is late in the game of getting someone in that will not mesh well. And having experienced that not that long ago, it was something that absolutely made me consider maybe Rappahannock wasn't the place for me because I was spending a lot of time with someone who didn't want to be here.
Right.
And I don't want to be in that situation either.
Right. That could be harder.
That would absolutely be harder.
Well, we put a lot of pressure on you. Appreciate you speaking up. Sure.
Another aspect. It's an opportunity to increase enrollment.
Can you speak up for phone, please?
I see that right now our fine arts enrollment is down. And I think it's an opportunity for kids to see the possibilities for increased enrollment in the fine arts program. The academy approach is going to be more inclusive, I would assume. It will include the drama, the local music, and the things that we, I've been an advocate for local music at the high school for 7 years now, and been pushing, and thank goodness Headwater stepped up a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, started something, but they can't do it by themselves. And I think this is an opportunity to make something happen, and then it's a time where you work on it, and you obviously put a lot of time and energy into it to start with, now, and be able to improve on it, then that, I don't see it going down. It can do nothing but go up, and that's kind of where I am.
So for me, one of the comments that Jason made was he was talking about how he didn't work with this other band director, and he talked about how he and this other gentleman worked together with the band. This thing we're talking about, this is different. This is raw. This is not Jason working with the band. This is fine arts as a program, right? Big picture. So it's coming up for air, and there's risk associated with it. And so it's a matter of, do we as a community want to take on that risk and see where it leads us, or do we attempt to do business as usual, stick with something that seems to be working, but a great risk to finding the right person when all the good people have basically already have good jobs, already signed contracts, they're done. And now we're going to go look for somebody. Jason can have a much harder year as the band director if we stuck in the same model. And we're not taking a step forward. It's a risk. It's, yep. So we look forward to hearing pros and cons from you when we're in public session. And at some point, this board is going to need to make a decision so we can move forward one way or another. So we want to hear from you. But in the end, we'll have to make a decision about it.
This is a great idea. I like that. But I'm afraid that we're going to take something he loves and he's so great at too. And instead of being a joy, it's going to become a burden. He's going to burn out trying to handle it all. So maybe instead of 2 assistants, we hire one, or at least one real good assistant director, not another band director, but somebody that's going to take that load off. But that's already on his shoulders already. And I don't want him to think it's just too much.
Well,
Keep doing it. Like I've seen other people do, not here.
Well, and that's exactly what I
And burn
said.
out.
We could, quite frankly, make him still the director of fine arts and maybe do a part-time assistant director. We talked about that too, but again, the timing, who's going to work for a part-time wage this point in the year, that was his concern too. He said, honestly, I'd rather do it. You said this to me, so, but if that's not the case, we will do what you need to do it. But if that's not the case, we do want to hear from people. It's not set in stone. This is just an opportunity for us to think about it. That's really what it
We have
is.
some very talented people in the community that wouldn't want a full-time job in music. But
The charge, but you can also at the same time, be going through these people that want to apply, and like that's the guy. Or
That's the
girl.
model I like the best. I just want to say,
I'm
that's
just-
what I
that's-
voted.
Let's be quick to get somebody in here to help him.
Right.
And not look at next year, let's get somebody now
or a couple
to
of
get it started.
Well, you have to ask one of them first. I don't care what they do. Something.
And then let's check on it like 3 times a week.
I'll give them oxygen every day.
All right, so that's the proposal.
That's just the
Proposal
proposal to
is
think,
that-
yeah.
that in this coming year,
Mhm.
we would try out this model and do this evaluation.
Mhm. And in February, that team will come with the recommendation and say, look, this worked, this didn't, here's the pros, here's the cons, this position needs to be this 1 full-time, 2 part-time, whatever it needs to be. And that's what we build. It's data-based, it's evidence-based, it's been evaluated thoroughly, we'll have all of it to then build our budget amount for the band program, the fine arts program. So it's all inclusive that way. But the idea is to maintain that budget for band and music and fine arts programs and things, but not take it away. But make sure we use the best, make the best use of those dollars to make sure it's serving the most kids in that way. So that's really, it's just an opportunity to think about it as the way it came about. That's all.
So if we elect to keep it as it is, and we advertise tomorrow
Yep.
for a position that would start less than a month from today,
Yep.
and we don't get someone, I mean, we're in a worse boat, aren't we? I just
Well,
wanna,
we
I
couldn't have
just don't know.
advertised it
I
until
mean,
tomorrow anyway.
I mean, we couldn't have advertised it.
Yeah, I'm saying we're in the same boat, he'd still be taking charge because he has to.
But then he wouldn't have
But he
the
wouldn't have
additional
extra
stipend,
stipend.
the
No, then he
additional,
wouldn't be a
No, I
he wouldn't have
think
the
he should.
administrative.
I think he should, I just, he's got to have somebody.
Oh, for sure.
I
Probably
mean, for sure,
not.
and that's part of, I think what we're
Quite
talking about.
quite sooner than later. But it's, he'll do it anyway.
All right.
All right, now how are you going to
Whew, it's a lot to think about, I'm sorry, but we do need everybody, and I'm glad we have a good showing and support for the programs, because we need people's input in it. We have to be realistic about numbers and the way things look too, and consider everything together.
All right, there'll be opportunity for comment a little later. It's not going to take us very long, so there'll be opportunity. We can hear from you. And we did have this dropped off with us, which is a set of the petition and it was put on the social media site and all of the comments that were part of that. I believe that's what this is because it reminds me of when I was reading it. I think it's the same things. Right? So thanks for bringing that. I think we all understand it. We all understand it. Good. All right. Anything else?
No.
Ready to conclude that?
Yes.
All right. Moving on to reports of the headwaters representative.
Oh, yes. I have a report. The summer chorus happened less than a month ago. They had their concert at the Castleton Festival. The summer chorus happened. I'm sorry, my mic is not working as well as it is. There's usually nobody sitting out there. But yes, and they had their concert after a 2-week program at the Castleton Festival. It was I got to hear them a little when I was peeking in on the elementary school, and they sounded great. And there were some adult voices and some children's voices, and that was great. And I think it dovetails with our fine arts idea that it's neat to see good singing going on in school. And they also had a retreat for making their next strategic plan. It was led by Ralph Bates. I don't know any details, but Headwaters has been strategizing. That's my report.
MDGS.
We haven't met since our last meeting.
Non-resident tuition waiver discussion. Right, so last 2 months ago, or was it last month? We talked about this in was it May? And the idea was we were going to have this it's not a policy, it's a regulation about if there were people working in the county more than 30 hours a week, I think, something like that, that they could apply to the school to come tuition-free. The discussion at the time was, well, other districts were doing something similar, but our intent was to come up with the idea of raising revenue without raising the bottom line cost to the division. If it had been anything other than that, we wouldn't have agreed on it. So, anyway, that's the extent of trying to get the ADM up, which raises bottom line revenue from the state, and doesn't increase. Sir?
And the feed the music
Read
program,
the music program.
and the sports program, and everything else.
Well, it certainly wasn't going to cost us anything, was the point. So, is there any discussion from the board? Because there's been a lot of discussion in other places in the county. Any other discussion from the board regarding that topic?
As far as regulation goes, I see here where it says the superintendent or his deputy. Let's go his her, because I think they're a her. That's the way I like it.
1993 policy.
I understand.
1893.
Yes.
It's that,
Probably 1893.
That's the way it's not.
But I find this to be an innovative way. I know there was a statement made at the Board of Supervisors meeting about the tuition being made up by ADM. Maybe that needs to be explained. There's a lot, the free tuition, the difference between free tuition, the tuition and the actual cost of the student. And the fact that no seat would be taken away from a Rappahannock kid to have kids from another jurisdiction. That's what I've been hearing community. So maybe that needs to be explained a little bit.
Well, and that makes sense. Basically, the non-resident application, you really don't review those until after your seats have been allocated and you know your numbers. And then you review each case by case, and it's an annual procedure, just like homeschool. So if you're a homeschooling student, same thing. You do have to update us with annual paperwork and application and things like that. So this works the very same way. We look at it case by case. If there is a full class and it would push us over our recommended ratio, sorry, there's no room. If you have a disciplinary record a mile long, sorry, we're not taking you. So it's very selective and it's case by case. And because we're not figuring in operational costs and raising those because it's already an empty seat in a classroom that we already have, the only thing that comes in is that state revenue, which is roughly $6,300 last year's ADM. So, but we're a month away from school. I have 0 applications at this point, so our idea of stabilizing ADM with this method is probably not going to be effective for us. But it's available as an option, and maybe as it gains some some traction, maybe we'll get some applications in. But even 10 to 15 children would help stabilize our ADM and hopefully solidify the revenue projections we do at budget time. So we're not going to the supervisor and saying, well, now state revenue's in the red. Now you have to make up the difference, and by the way, here's our budgeted need now. So if we can help stabilize that portion, that just helps us build a budgeted need, and that's it, and not have to make up for lost revenue from the state. Because you remember that enrollment loss funding that came through the state formula for divisions like ours got taken away the second year of the biennium right from under us. And that's $75,000 in your budget. That was supposed to be there, and that really took care of that enrollment decline in rural districts, and now we don't have that. So that's a major talking point for legislative action, is give rural districts back their enrollment loss funding using that formula, and also the at-risk add-on formula that helps state revenue as well. So those are our 2 points that the Rural Coalition, the Schools Coalition, that we're really trying to tackle. So that helps us.
So someone might say you're giving tuition free to someone that would normally have paid the $8,000. I have a feeling that they would have considered paying the $8,000.
That's a barrier, a major
Right, right.
barrier.
So it's a barrier, right? Because I'm just trying to make sure we get all these points out there. What could have possibly driven the decision that we came to? What all was being driven was, this is a revenue builder with no cost to us. No new administrative seats, no new teacher seats. This is filling empty chairs in a room idea, and benefits us because what we get from the state would be greater, simply based on AD. So that was the intent behind it.
And since it is case by case, instead of it's a whole classroom full of third graders, because you're not gonna hire another teacher. For that, it's only in classes.
Yes.
It's annual.
Annual.
So you could literally have, let's say the number 24, that number for fourth grade. You could have 24 third graders and then have 24 fourth graders the next year, and nobody could apply from outside to be in that class.
Right.
Because that's your magic number.
Classes flew.
Yeah.
And that might be a risk too, to families wanting to apply. If I have to apply every year and I'm not certain I'm gonna have that. So I understand the barriers both ways. It is a method that other districts had used that we reviewed first. And that, well, if we put it in there, we'll see the effects of it. If it doesn't work, then it's maybe not worth having, but we'll see. As of yet, 0 applications.
That would be a good thing to get updated on.
Sure.
As we see
Sure,
it.
yep.
Anything else on that topic? All right, moving on to public comment. Does anyone like to address the board this evening? Yes, Kevin?
First of all, I'd like to pass out some toys.
Passing out toys. What kind of toys?
My wife said if I brought home another pen, she'd shoot.
Good, it's a pencil, so.
Oh, these are pencils. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
like those are safe.
Oh, this is great. It actually says something. Now, if we show up at another board meeting with one of these, there's going to be some judging going on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Well, as you know, I'm Kevin Brander, I'm from the Wakefield District. I'm also the Executive Director of Headwaters. And as Ms. Bynum was so kind to point out, we just got done our summer course, and we're very excited about it. I'm going to tell you about it, and in a minute, I'm going to ask Dr. Brinsley to show a clip of one of the songs we did.
Hey, Joe, can you pull that mic over to you?
Sure. A little better?
Nice.
Okay. Friday, June 28th is when we had our concert over at Castleton. It was a triumph for the kids who performed. They worked very hard to get to learn the music and be able to perform it. And we performed at Castleton, so this is a big deal for them. For 2 very hot weeks, 25 students from Rappahannock County Elementary School, the high school, Grimes Memorial School, Wakefield Country Day School, and several homeschool students rehearsed, played, and had fun making music together. Students range from incoming 2nd graders to incoming 11th graders, both from Culpeper County and Rappahannock. Students from Culpeper actually asked to come to Rappahannock to be with this choir, so it was very exciting for us. Students rehearsed and performed songs of many different genres, from a fun catch canon that we enjoy every year to several show tunes. If you didn't see it, The Sound of Music medley was absolutely adorable for the kids. Faith music, ranging from Michael Pretorius' Soli Deo Gloria to two spirituals, one of which you're going to hear this evening. They performed a South African song, Mama Lié, which honored mothers, and an American folk song, 900 Miles, which told the story of a long emotional trip home. They sang My Girl and Stop in the Name of Love like Motown pros, and even went right into Bohemian Rhapsody, which was quite interesting. And they ended the concert with a favorite of theirs, Jim Papulis' Stand Together. Students were able to experience the diversity of choral music and the stories that they can tell through choral music. This year, in addition to the talents of our local gems, Keith Hudspeth and Wendy Achel, the chorus was joined by several new faces. Bonnie Tinch, who conducts the piece that you're going to see in a minute, is a widely respected teacher and clinician from Fairfax County. Olivia Sandell is a recent sacred music graduate of Westminster Choir College, and her brother Eugene Sandell is a sophomore music education major at St. Olaf College in Minnesota. Each contributed greatly to the confidence, musicianship, and the joy that the singers showed on stage, which you're going to see in a minute. I want to thank especially Rappahannock County Elementary School for hosting us for 2 weeks. They were wonderful and very accommodating. Rappahannock County Public Schools has been a great partner in music for the past 3 years. We've really enjoyed working with them. It's been rewarding to work with us with a school board and administration that support our musical endeavors and really encourage the arts in the school. So headquarters is absolutely thrilled to be able to work with you guys, so thank you so much. Thanks to the parents who worked out carpools, get kids where they needed to be, sometimes at the 11th hour, and for lending their kids to us for 2 weeks. Thank you to Mr. Grove and other faithful audience members who support this program for 3 years. Their support is absolutely wonderful, and we thank you so much. It was also wonderful to have Ms. Gibbert there to represent the students' music teachers. We have these kids for about 2 weeks, but teachers like Ms. Gibbert, Mr. Resiborski, and Mr. Gira keep music alive in these schools year-round. We are grateful for the dedication, so thank you so much for everything you guys do year-round to keep music alive. We are looking ahead to next year to make this experience even better. And now, for those of you who didn't come to listen to me talk all the time, I'd like to present our kid sings Keith Hampton's Praise His Holy Name.
Praise His holy
9 days. Better reach
So that
Kevin,
was
I'm sure
children, that was children from all throughout the community. It wasn't just from the public school.
Smaller community from Rappahannock, called Pepper, home school from the public school. And as Dr. Griffin said, they had about 9 days. From the time they looked at the music to the time they performed the music. So,
We need to thank Castleton too, because they opened that.
Hosted that.
Situation. It would be wonderful if we could build this to having to need a new venue that had more seats on it. This was the best one yet. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Anyone else tonight? Come on, I know somebody's gonna get up. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. I'm Ashley Frazier. I'm a parent of a band student. I am also the sibling of a band student, and I am a previous band student. For the last 20 years, my family has sold band fruit. So, Mr. G, I know you are an extremely capable man. You have survived my brother, and you are surviving my daughter. And you take on all kinds of things, and the children respect you and honor your decision on things. My fear is, this has been done once before, and we burned her out. And it was tried again with another gentleman who came before you, and he too became burned out. I worry that we'll burn you out. But you know that we will back you and your decisions, and we will help in any way we can. But please take into consideration having someone to help you, because we don't want to burn you. We don't want to lose you. And I know my daughter cherishes all the time within band with you. And I hope that you all consider giving him the help that he would need if this is the decision that he chooses to go forward with. Because again, it has been done and she was burned out. It took a couple years, but we lost her. And that particular conductor used to work for the military, and we still managed to burn her out. And there was no jazz band at that time. And that is a concern I have. And it's not just mine, there are other parents. There are past band students who signed positions. Some of them left comments. We're just concerned of burning him out, of losing him. But again, we don't want the same thing that you all don't want. We don't want Bob Smith, who's deliberately passed over from the last 8 schools because he has no desire. And I know who you speak of, and that was a horrible, horrible year. So we just want to make sure that you are comfortable, that the kids are not going to lose you or the support that they need as well. Thank you all.
Ms. Fraser, hey, thanks for your comments. So where are you from? Where's your from?
Born and raised in Butown, moved a whole whopping 8 miles from home and now live in Boston.
So,
Stonewall.
Stonewall Hospital.
Stonewall Hospital
Yes,
District.
sir.
Good. Thank you for your comments, Ms. Fraser. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Sophia Hernandez, and I'm from the Jackson District. I would like to thank the school board for giving me the opportunity to express my concerns and have me here. So again, I'm Sophia. I'm entering my 13th and final year in Rappahannock County Public Schools. I joined band in the 5th grade and will continue through my senior year. In high school, I play in all 3 ensembles, concert, jazz, and marching. And I've served as drum major for last year, and I will serve again this year. Frequently, when I face a moral dilemma, I'll sit down with Mr. Gura and ask him for his advice. When I tell him everything, he'll often say to me, "You know what you need to do," and he's right.
The decision that I have to make is not always the easiest, and more often requires more work on my part. The decision lies on the road less followed, and while that decision may ruffle feathers, it is the one that serves the greater good. Esteemed members of the school board, I am asking you, now that you are faced with this decision, to make the one that might not be the easiest, that may require some work, and may ruffle feathers, because that decision will best serve the students of our CPS. So, as you know, a petition has been made, and you will read the comments, so I don't need to read those to you. Those signers include parents of our CPS, band students, grandparents, parents, aunts and uncles, brothers, sisters, friends, alumni from the class of 2010 to the class of 2019, parents of those alumni, community members, and former RCPS band directors. It's not unknown how highly the community thinks of Mr. Gira, and regardless of what is put on his plate, he will give 110% and do the absolute best that he can. I know this personally from having the pleasure of working with him for the last 4 years, and I believe that he is one of the most hardworking and committed teachers in Rappahannock, and we as a school system are so fortunate to have him. He is not only a role model to myself and the Panther Band, but also every student he encounters. But I and many others are concerned that if such tasks were to be placed on his shoulders, that he could potentially, and probably will, burn out. This is the last thing any of us want for him, as he's done so much for this program and those who are in it. The students of both schools deserve to have a director that is solely focused on them. And at the high school, we are so fortunate to have Mr. Gira. In the elementary school, they deserve the same. David DeBoer, Rachel Siegfried, and Benjamin Beasley are all former RCPS band directors who know the workload that they had when they were at RCPS. And they all are in agreement and signed that petition and believe it is necessary to have another director. Now, addressing the Arts Academy. I think that's a great idea. And as a musical theater student who will be pursuing musical theater in college, I have to bring to your attention that this would require people. Musical theater is dance, singing, and acting. Right now you're proposing Mr. Gira, and I love you, I don't think you can dance. So I must ask you, how can a fine arts coordinator only coordinate himself? And again, I am an MT student, and I could have left Rappahannock this year to pursue an art school, but I chose to stay because Mr. Gira and this program was worth it to me. I have had so many opportunities through Mr. Gira as a band director for me as an MT student. I ask that you take this into consideration and please hire a second director. Also, Mr. Osaborski was hired during band camp. Thank you.
I commend Sophia's bravery. I'm Dabney Kirchman. I'm in the Piedmont District, and I wrote these before I'd heard Dr. Grimsley's presentation, so the tone might be a little more frantic than I would do now, so I'm just going to apologize. But anyway, I'm here to express my support for the RCPS band program, which I know is why many of us are here, and I appreciate the work that all of you on the school board are doing for all of us. And I also regret that this is my first school board meeting that I've come to speak to you about the band program. I think that perhaps if I and others had come in the budget hearings last year and said, resources are stretched so thin, we need new uniforms. I didn't come to any budget hearings, many of us didn't. Perhaps if I had come at any time over the last 5 years and said, he's here all the time, he works so hard, the instruments are falling apart, perhaps the conversation would have been about the needs that we had all along that we were just sort of muddling by, like, okay, I'm gonna stitch this uniform up one more time, even though it's threadbare, I'm gonna glue it together. And that's what we've been doing with those uniforms. Me and other parents, we bumble along. They need to be replaced. The instruments need to be replaced. The man is here from 7:15 until 10 o'clock, many days. I don't understand how you're gonna get more time out of him. I really, I heard your presentation, it sounds beautiful, it's this shining vision, but I don't see the thought that Mr. Rasaborski was only working 2 hours, so Mr. Gira can just step in there and work those 2 hours. It doesn't make sense to me. And again, perhaps if all along we had been here expressing our needs and expressing our gratitude, maybe the conversation would have been a different one instead of a desperate, please don't gut this program that is working so well. That's my concern, is that the program will suffer, that there's no way to cut one person from it without it suffering. And it's done very well. As many of you probably know, my daughter got into Virginia All-State Band in both 10th and 11th grade. It's the first time that anyone from Rappahannock has gotten into Virginia All-State Band. And that happened under the direction of Mr. Gira, because he was here and present and dedicated and not split between 67 other commitments and not trying, just the mental work of teaching middle school kids and high school kids, they're not the same beast. The brains don't work the same. And it's one thing to say, well, he was doing administrative work last year, so surely he can do another band this year. It's two different things. It's like people who wait tables and teach college classes. It's two different parts of your brain, so it's easier to do those things. Whereas two different band directors, it will exhaust him. I fear. I just am not sure that you know how much time he actually already spends here. When my daughters started in band in 8th grade, I attended a school that didn't have a band program. And when my daughters started, and they told me, oh yeah, we have to be there at 7:15. What? You don't need to be there at 7:15? Oh, we have this 2-week band program. It's free, but it's at the end of the summer. No, we're taking a family vacation. What are you talking about? No, that's too much time. It's too much work. Obviously, I lost that argument, and they did jazz band, and they did summer band camp. But the amount of work that he's already giving is just is almost more than I wanted my child to do. So I can't imagine how much extra he is here. And then the final regret that I have not, over the course of these years, come and said to you is this room that we're sitting in. This is another chore that gets put on Mr. Gira's desk. His students set this room up monthly. His students clean it up so time when he's supposed to be teaching band, the students are cleaning up and breaking down and setting up this very room. To me, the whole irony is, please set up the room so we can have school board meeting. like it's one more thing. I just feel like, please don't kill him, because what he's doing is excellent, and I would hate for it to be lost, because it is really a shining thing, and it's something that private and homeschool kids don't have. You have to come to the public school to get what we got here. Thank you.
This is the part that's, it's means that I
Microphone.
would like.
Make sure you speak into the mic, Ms. Johnson. Thank you.
And I'm just as passionate about the band as everybody else is in here, because that's really been one of my things too. I had friends that was in the band and just loved everybody in the band. They did very well. And I think everybody knows here that the band is one of the best things we have in the school. And we have 2 wonderful schools. So can you get better than the best? Yes, you can get better than the best, because you can be the best of the best. And so after you've heard Dr. Grimms' proposal, I hope that you're not as concerned as you were when you came in here, and that you're not upset about it. You can always be concerned, because we need to be concerned about all the programs in the school. And as far as him being overworked, he probably will be, because a lot of them here are overworked. But believe me,
I've been around and I know that a lot of them here are overworked, maybe all of them are overworked. And even the board members are overworked. Anyway, well, I think the proposal sounds good. I think we should go for it. I think that we should have a positive attitude. I think we should trust administration to do what's best. And all the times that I've been on the board, that I was on the board, I don't know that any board member didn't put the student first before anything else. And I'm confident that's what will happen here. It'll be what's best for the student. And I just trust all of them. And I feel like that we should feel better about it. And we're going to be okay with it. And as I said, after this is over, and then if you find it doesn't work, well then we can change again. We've been here before a couple of times, and we've always come out better. And can we be better now? Just like I said, yes, we can get better, because I expect that we one day will be the best of the best. So go for it.
Thank you, Adrian. Next? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Autumn Hernandez, Jackson District. I'm going to read from something that was sent to us by Jan Nakula, who couldn't be with us tonight. She did say she was going to try to be here, but things were crazy, and she says, please include my comments. And before I do that, she was an RCPS band parent during the transition years from one instructor to two instructors, so she does understand what we've been as one instructor and two instructors. As a retired teacher, I can attest to the fact that music enhances learning, all aspects of it, not just science and math. And I have watched as our Rappahannock students have excelled more and more through the years at Latin competitions, quiz bowl meets, and more. Many of the students in those competitions have also been band students, benefiting from the discipline, rhythm, structure, and other musical elements that give both sides of their young developing brains a workout. Personally, we have watched our now 30-year-old son benefited in untold ways. A band student in grades 5 through 12, he still plays multiple instruments and has eclectic musical tastes. He was an honor student at RCPS and attended William and Mary College. He was a starting member of the quiz bowl team at our CHS. Our successful band program gave that shy kid the boost that he needed. His experiences in band led him to a successful career in sound engineering, obtaining a degree from IPR in Minneapolis. He currently works in a supervisory position for a firm in DC that also requires a good ear. He credits his band experience for enhancing his ability to concentrate. The confidence he developed through the band program at RCPS has been hugely responsible for his success. I watched as other students had similar experiences, thriving in the band program and excelling in all academic areas. Studies show that there is a direct correlation. Running a band program is exhausting under the best circumstances. Talented band directors can make enormous difference in the lives of our students and subsequently in the success of our schools at large, but they must be supported. Please do not diminish the opportunities provided by our band program by eliminating a director's position. There is much more to be lost than gained by eliminating that position. Thank you, Jan Nakula.
Anyone else? Just ma'am.
My name is Christine Smith, and I live in the Piedmont District. I just want to be very clear that I have nothing but confidence in Mr. Gira. I do not know of a more capable, competent, or trustworthy instructor. And you know my older son adores you, and my younger son can't wait to study under you. I do have concerns that developing a program under only one figure is a lack of redundancy, and that's a lack of strength. When you have redundancy and you have options, you build a stronger system. I'm very concerned because not too long ago, Mr. Rasporski was very ill. And thankfully, we had redundancy, and Mr. Guerra was able to intervene and carry that load while Mr. Rasporski heals. I would urge you to keep the director position intact at the elementary school, to keep that redundancy available. I don't understand how you could hope to hire 2 assistant band directors, but yet think you'll be unable to fill the seat of 1 regular band director on a short schedule when we haven't even looked yet. You haven't even looked to see what's available. So I would urge you to keep the system intact as it is. I'm not sure about this fine arts proposal. It sounds complicated. And as we have a shrinking student body, I sometimes wonder about the ideas of developing more complicated programs for a shrinking student body. And the fact of it is, I don't think you can pull it together before the school year starts, which is what's in front of you, even though you're allowing until February. So I would urge you to keep the band director position in place at the elementary school, to keep the healthy redundancy intact between the 2 schools. And I didn't have planned comments, so please bear with me. I did just want to briefly address the tuition waiver that you all discussed quite at some length. And I think that I made the statement in the meeting, and I would just make the statement to you all, that my issue was not that it's not a policy, it's a statement, I suppose, that the Dr. Grimsley put out, as certainly is within her purview to do that. I was concerned that it was before you all in May, and yet it didn't come to the Board of Supervisors in June. The Board of Supervisors didn't hear about it. It wasn't in the superintendent's report that we receive every month. The Board of Supervisors didn't hear about it until the July meeting, after it had already come out on Facebook. To me, a statement to that effect, I understand what you're trying to do. As I've said, I understand that you're trying to hit that 8 a.m. sweet spot and maximize what you can get. For every child that you take on, and also for every child that you turn away, there's a certain amount of risk involved in that negotiation. If we have another child come into the school, we had school bus accident, we could have litigation. We could have litigation if the child is turned away. So I just wanted to make clear that while I understand what you're trying to do, I do believe there is a downside to the policy. And I just wanted to address that so you all understand where I'm coming from. I appreciate your time, and I thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rosanna Reed from the Stonewall Hawthorne District. I just wanted to say that you seem to be offering all these different options with this new program, and I guess that's all going to cost money too. So why not take the same money and invest it back into the program the way it's working great, and it has been working great. Hire a new band director for the elementary school. One of the young ladies just said that Mr. Rasaborski was hired over summer. So Could work out fine, could not. Same as this program, it's chances. I say take the chance, hire the new band director. My son loves the band. He started in 5th grade. He plans to continue, hopefully get a scholarship. I don't think he's going to like this new proposal that you all have. I'll just be honest. From what I've seen, I don't think a lot of the kids will. That's just my opinion. I don't agree that there are 2 part-time positions. I believe both of them are full-time positions. I don't think that enough is being said about what is actually done by these 2 people, and that things are broken down between the 2 schools when they compete and how they prepare for competitions. And that kids playing together get to know each other, and I mean, it kind of makes me sad that I believe I heard Mr. Guerra say he was finally getting, and this was maybe last year, he was finally getting the band the way he wanted it. It makes me a little sad, but I think we need to stay focused on working what's great for our kids, and that's this award-winning program that we have going on as it is. Thanks.
Is there anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Alice Jones. I live in the Hampton district, but I have a letter from an individual in the Stonewall district they will present it to the school board, and then I'll make my own comments. This letter's from Krista Hale. She was a band booster parent for many years. 2 of my children were involved in the RCPS band programs. Jonathan joined the high school band in the 8th grade and remained in band until he graduated from high school, where he was the drum captain. Today, he is a drummer in a band that performs all original compositions and head chef in Richmond, Virginia. Katie joined band in 5th grade and became the drum major of the RCHS band. Because of the teaching and mentorship she received from her band directors, Mrs. Fournier, Matt Yonke, Ben Beasley, and David DeBoer, among others, she decided to major in music education at Virginia Tech, where she was a section leader of clarinets in the Marching Virginians, president of her music sorority, and a member of countless other ensembles and orchestras, even performing at Carnegie Hall 2 years ago. She graduated with her master's in music education and just completed her first year as an elementary music teacher and assistant band director at high school in Roanoke. In addition to being a band parent, I was an in-home counselor in Rappahannock County for 10 years, where I worked with at-risk youth. They didn't play sports, they didn't fit in. I assisted some of them to join the band where they found a sense of purpose, felt included, and flourished due to the band family. I am convinced that the RCPS band program helped them become fine adults that they are today. During my children's years in the RCPS bands, I was active in band boosters where I witnessed the incredible amount of work and support that it takes for many adults to make the band program work. I was inspired by the tireless support of these adults who mentored our children as they gave up part of their summers to attend band camps, jazz band practices, after-school band practices, rehearsals, concerts, and performances for the community. Support for the sports programs, fundraisers to supplement the band's income, the Christmas parades in our own and neighboring communities, and many weekend competitions and trips. Bringing home trophy after trophy, which now line the band room and help our community shine. I was grateful for the strong support and advocacy for music education that we always received from Dr. Bob Chappelle, our former superintendent of schools, and think of what he would have to say on this issue if he were still here with us today. It seems that music education is often considered a dispensable item by school systems across our nation when it comes to school budgets. but I would encourage you to read the research on the many contributions in music education on young, developing minds, and I urge you to take a different position. Even with the second band director, many more parents are needed to make the band program work. Cutting this position would be a grave mistake, in my humble opinion. That was from Krista Hale. And I would like to say that as a band booster parent and a band mom, I think that the program is outstanding as the way it stands. Mr. Razaborski was a great influence on my son in middle school, and because of his influence, he came to continue band in high school. He's not a sports guy. He doesn't want to do anything else. He just wants to do band. And he loves Mr. Vieira, and what's not to love about it. But he does an incredible amount of work. I became involved with Band Boosters last year and have kind of been the person to take on the fundraising for new uniforms hat, which we do need. And I see how busy he is all the time. And I agree with my colleagues here that say, how can you, I just think he's going to get burned out, and we really don't want to lose him. So we have a jewel here, and we need to make sure that if the system is the way, if we're not going to hire somebody now for this summer session, he's got to have some help. And I think that's agreed by everyone, but I really don't think getting rid of that position in the elementary school is the best route. So thank you.
Everyone else? Yes.
I'm Catherine Trainer, and I'm from the Jackson District. I speak today out of serious concern for the future of the school's band program. My 3 boys graduated from RCPS quite a few years ago, and I don't have kids in the school any longer. But over the past 13 years, I've administered a program of music lessons, and I tend to hang around here a fair amount. When our sons, Andrew and Patrick, joined the band program in the 5th grade, the program was valiantly run by Lynn Fournier, who I think you've heard a little bit about already. She was the only band instructor serving both schools. When they reached the high school, there was no jazz band, no guitar classes, no piano classes, and students in the band program did not participate in any regional adjudicated competitions. There was no real marching band. The high school band stood in the middle of the field and played for the crowd. They played well, but it was impossible for one director, no matter how committed she was to her students, to manage all of the ancillary programs needed to support both a middle school and a high school band program that was successful. She taught band classes, and basically that's all she had time to do. I've been corresponding with one of the previous band directors. Mr. Yonke was hired in the fall of 2004 as the high school band director. He is now interim principal at the Broomfield Elementary School in Fauquier County. He said in a recent email message, "I am saddened to hear about the possible not unhiring." He just said saddened to hear this. That's his quote. Asking one person, regardless of ability and experience, to manage and then cultivate a program of excellence is quite difficult, and the turnover rate is accelerating. In the fall of 2004, the school board agreed to hire Mr. Youngie as the second band director here at the high school. It took him a couple of years, but by the time he left to begin the band program at Kettle Run High School, our RCHS band was a Virginia honor band, which means they earned superior ratings in both concert and marching band. That happened because there were two directors. Our music program continues to thrive despite overall school level enrollment. Last year, Mr. Rasoborski said just in this office that 2018-19 was the biggest fifth grade band class he had ever seen. Unfortunately, Mr. Rasoborski was unable to teach for a significant portion of the school year 2017 to 2018. For those students in the elementary school band that year, their instructional quality suffered severely. In spite of the fact that Mr. Guerra was able to occasionally go down to the elementary school and assist teaching those classes. Like many disciplines, music education is based on cumulative knowledge, and any lack of quality in any one year, especially at the middle school level, results in lower quality performance in the future. If the school board decides to try having one band director for two schools, I fear that the quality of our children's musical education will suffer. The students in the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th will be provided with poorer instruction than what we can afford and what they deserve. With great respect for the people in Rappahannock who want to create new and exciting programs for our school children, doing so to the detriment of an already flourishing program does all of the affirmation students in all those grades a serious disservice. Hopefully, RCHS will again be a Virginia honor band with superior ratings in both concert and marching. And I trust that with the terrific educational leadership in front of me, that a constructive solution can be found to this problem. I am extremely concerned that the idea of a stipend position would be, or even two of them, would be enough support to keep the terrific, now you see why I write things down, would keep the momentum of this program continually growing. That's not a good solution in my mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Autumn? You're gonna go for you? Got an email from your mother.
Yes. I believe all of you did receive an email from my parents,
Everybody
yes,
got
I think they all got you, yes. Again, Autumn Hernandez, still Jackson District. I just want to express a great concern about the idea of combining two director positions into one. The high school band director, he's responsible for the marching band and music classes, sectional instruction, music lessons, jazz band, concert band. He directs 2 weeks of band camp, and I don't care what you call band camp, that's torture for children. Excuse me, it's educational. In the summer, 2 weeks in the sun, they're out there, they're working on learning how to march and to do the things that they need to do. He is out there in the summer sun, July and August, leading this all day long, 2 weeks. He leads evening practices after school several days per week during the school in preparation for competition and for football games. The director is also responsible for organizing weekend competitions to allow the band to showcase their ability and hone their competition skills. Mr. Gira opens these doors of the band early, 6:45, 2 days a week, for downbeat at 7 a.m. to ensure that our jazz band continues to grow and thrive. The jazz band provides an outlet to students who don't really necessarily like just the concert experience or the traditional band experience. The band leads events to encourage student spirit at school, as well as programs for the community, the Veterans Day program, and other things that the band does. The band director works closely with the drama department, putting in countless hours of practice leading up to drama productions. These are into late hours of the night. He's also responsible for several fundraising events during the year. Strawberries, oranges, anybody interested, please. And he's also works well with the band boosters, which is a fantastic group. Elementary school band director in the past has been responsible not only for the elementary school band, but also historically has assisted the high school director with instruction of band class, sectional instructions and lessons. The elementary school does need to have a dedicated director so that these elementary school band students can develop music appreciation as well as the skills and discipline needed to hopefully advance to the high school band experience. Mr. Gira is a fantastic person, and the kids love him. I am not sure. There is something to be said for having a middle school experience and a high school experience under two different directors. Sometimes if someone is under the same person for years and years, they kind of get familiarity breeds contempt type of a situation. And having that separate is actually a positive thing. Our CHS has a small but powerful band. Our band has continued to grow and improve over the past few years. It's a testament to Mr. Gira's directorship skills as to how well the marching band has done and rated, especially when you consider that half of our band this year was 8th grade students coming in who had never marched before. Our band competed with high school bands that have only 9th through 12th grade experience with some instruction prior to that, and the Panther band did well, especially when you consider that our students said half of the students had never marched previously. The band continues to be a robust program, and it continues to grow. This is directly due to the time that Mr. Gira has to put into this program. If you spread the director too thin, the program is going to suffer, and you'll have the very strong risk of employee burnout. A band director is not just someone who provides musical instruction and leadership, and my daughter alluded to that. They're also a role model, an encourager, a psychiatrist, and I'm sorry for that, a medic, and a safe person to go to. You have all of this in your current band director, Jason Gira. He genuinely cares for the students under his leadership. He steers them, he directs them, not only in music, but in making good choices. I'm concerned that if you place all of this, all of these responsibilities on one person, and maybe a few on the side, that one person's going to burn out. I believe it's been tried in the past, and I believe the result was the loss of that director due to burnout. I'm also concerned that if one person takes on that monumental task, some of the opportunities that we have for music and music instruction will have to be stopped. This would be detrimental not only to our students at our CPS, but also to the community. Music is important in all levels of education. Music has been credited with multiple benefits, including helping with language and reasoning, improved SAT scores, discipline, engagement in school, emotional development, and success in society. I would ask you to please reconsider any decision to have one person cover both the high school and the elementary school bands. I truly believe this will be detrimental not only to the student body of our CPS, but also to the band director, the community, and to the music program at our school. I also would like to state that, I think it was already said earlier, there really is no do-over for students. This year is the senior year for several of the students. I just would like you to take into consideration all of this when you make your decision. Thank you.
Anyone else? I appreciate you all coming out and sharing your thoughts. It's good for us. It's good to reflect on the value that we place on the system, the program, the individual. Man, it had to be hard to sit and listen to all that, right?
You're gonna need to like take a wall out and get my ego out of this.
Yeah, it's good to hear. Appreciate your time coming out. And certainly all considered in the decisions that are setting before the board. This evening, as we try to take a next step. All right, if there's no one else, we'll conclude. Oh, we have one. Got me on the spot. What's up?
I thought you were closing it down on me. I'm Jimmy Swindler.
We were this close, Jimmy.
Stonewall Hawthorne. Full disclosure, I have no musical talent other than knowing almost all the words to every Grateful Dead song and singing them at the top of my lungs when the music is cranked really loud so no one can hear me. There was no band when I went to school here. I graduated back in the Jimmy Carter administration. There was band when both of my children went to school here, but neither of them were band students. They have about as much musical talent as I do, but don't tell them that. But I say all that and also say I understand very well how important the arts and band in particular. I've heard several people in here talk about children who had no other extracurricular interests, but they found something in band, and I've seen that repeatedly in my years here at the high school. A lot of people tonight have talked about their fear, I think, of what may happen. I want to talk just very briefly about some realities. Reality number one, our numbers are dropping. Chris Ubben said in the time he's been on the board, we've lost 200 students. I started teaching in 2001. I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure our division numbers then were around 1,100. And what did you say our ADM was? 1120. Yeah.
When I moved here.
Yeah, and I don't know, I hope, for a lot of reasons, that drop has stabilized, but in the meantime, that's the position that we're in. And we're already getting creative as far as how to do more with less. When I took over as principal, I met with Dr. Grimsley. I said, look, the reality is we can't justify a full-time assistant principal. Would I like to have one? You bet I would. But we can't justify it. We had a history teacher retire this year. We chose not to replace him. We went to our history department, our English department. We have English teachers who wanted to teach a history class here and there. And what we're creating is the humanities department, combining those two. I looked at the first run of the schedule for next year today. I think it's going to create a much better product. But that's history and English, and it's not banned. The thing is, this can work. Strasburg High School is one of the schools that we compete against in district. They're bigger than us. We're a 1A school, they're a 2A school. Their band director, their band program has followed this model. I don't know how long that director's been there, but I'm pretty sure he's been there as long as Mr. Gira has. It does work. It can work. It has to have the right person. A lot of people have said a lot of great things about Jason Gira tonight, and I would echo and reinforce every single one of them. If anyone can make this work, not just work well, it will be Jason Gira. But I will also tell you this, If Dr. Grimsley tells you that we will revisit this in February, and if it's not working, we'll have to look at something else, that's what's going to happen. She's not just going to, I mean, I've seen this, and you know, we pilot, you got to understand, we're in a position where we have to try new things so we can get the most out of what we have. What I don't want to be in a position in as an administrator is to continue with the same model that we have as far as replacing people. And then, if these numbers don't change, to find myself in the position 2 or 3 years from now of having to go to people and say, I'm sorry, but we gotta let you go. I would much rather try to work with the people that we have here, ask some of us to do more, ask some of us to do some things different than what we've done before, and see if we can make that work. And so far, it has worked pretty well for our school system. My goal, and I said this, Dr. Grimsley talked earlier tonight about the retreat that we had. There's a great book out there. I'm not much for self-help books, but there's one that I really like, and it's Collins. Is that right, Jim Collins? Good to Great. You know, we're a good school. We're a really good school. I want us to be a great school. We're a really good band. I think that Mr. Gira wants us to be a great band. I think that's what we all want. But that the gist of that book was, the landscape is littered with schools and businesses that are good, but there aren't many that are great. So what is it that those people do to go from being good to great? And one of the things that they do, they get very creative with the assets that they have. It's don't just, okay, well, let's add more sales or add more marketing or add more teachers or add another assistant principal. How about looking at how we're doing things and what can we do to make them better? The last thing I'll say, again, to realities. One of the hardest things I ever did in my professional career was to undertake a graduate program, a master's program, while I was teaching and while I was coaching. And Mr. Gira will echo that. It is incredibly difficult. I thought my wife was going to leave me at some point because I was such I wasn't a very nice person. Mr. Gira has been going through that, and he'll be done in August, September. I know from my own experience that his life will change. Doesn't mean that the hours will be any less from the job that he's going to have here, but those hours that I have been watching him put into his graduate program for the last year and a half, all of a sudden they're going to be gone. And that's going to make a big deal of difference from him. I don't want him to get burned out. I don't want me to get burned out. I don't want any of us here to get burned out. But I want us all to be successful, and I want us all to be able to do it working with what we have and dealing with our realities. So I hope you will have faith in Dr. Grimsley and in this school board and whatever decision they end up making, and I don't know what decision they're going to make, but I hope you'll have faith in it, and I hope you will know that all of us will work hard to not only make sure the band program stays successful, but all of our programs stay here successful. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Last call.
That people only want to put so fast.
Number 2.
Hello, I'm Ashley Bergen from Boston. Mr. Swindler, I do remember that time frame for you, and we were glad you were in the trail. So I understand the stress, but we do have to consider at least one really capable person who would be able to conduct as well, so that if something, knock on wood, were to happen, or you needed to take a leave for any reason, the kids aren't watching videos. I do remember doing that quite frequently when Miss Fournier had to take some leave. We watch movies in here quite a bit. So as long as there's somebody that can pick up and not just fill in. And with the talk of the children going down, I planted my roots. I did not move far from home. I made sure to be near my great-grandmother, my in-laws, my mother, her entire family. Didn't go far. I have heard from some people over the years why they are bullying their kids. Some crush my heart. But there are some that we have that are homeschool students who would like to participate in different things or a class within the school. They're not allowed. how do we fix that? So that that's not just part of the, well, Johnny works here 40 hours a week. Let's have his kids come in. Can we add something to help the kids that are already here that just don't come to the school on a regular basis for whatever reason their parents have, or for whatever reason they don't want to socialize on the most aspects, because there are some of those children as well. Just wondering if there's another way to revisit both aspects, to give him the help he needs, and maybe give us a couple of extra kids here and there that still would technically be full-time, but would be able to see something that they would like to see, or try something they'd like to try, even if it doesn't work out for them. Just give all the kids in the community an opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Catherine.
I won't,
Stay right there, Catherine. We
I
can hear
won't put you, no, I have to
Yes.
come up. I won't put you through any more recitations of materials that we've received, but I would ask that these be shared with the board. There are 2 more additional letters that folks have sent to us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Additional letters. Yes. Yes. This is the ad lib speech, not the one you prepared.
Yes, not the one I prepared.
Yikes.
Again, Sophia Hernandez, Jackson District. I think it's great that you guys are willing to be flexible and that we're all willing to be flexible to find something that works. I would like to reiterate that while it's great you're willing to reconsider in February, that's too late for me. This is my last year and my last chance. And to have Mr. Gira spread that thin is unfortunate for all of us, because Mr. Gira then has to lean on us, on the students, on his student leadership, on his parents, things that he could be doing himself. And while I see our population is diminishing, our school population is diminishing, our numbers in band are pretty consistent, if not growing. Within the elementary school, we're consistent. With the high school, we're consistent. If anything, we're going up. 2 years ago, we had 30 kids, last year around 35, this year around, 37? 25 a couple years ago. This year we're going into 35. Band is not changing. So even if population is, band isn't. So maybe there's something else that needs to be looked at instead of just band. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? All right. Appreciate you coming and sharing. And this time we'll close public comment. All right, moving on to action items. Is there a motion from the board to approve the food service bids and meal pricing? We have a motion from Ms. Bottom. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Meyer. Is there any discussion? That's the peas and carrots, right, Ms. Johnson? Peas and carrots. That's what she used to say. Let's get the peas and carrots. All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, no. Approval for the out-of-county tuition rate, which was $8,657.58 on a projected ADM of 825. Is there a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion, Mr. Newman. Is there a second? Second from Mr. Grove. Any discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, no. Ordered approval of the annual resolutions, which include the BPSA Tech resolution, petty cash, unused sick leave, payroll, accounts payable, and general leave policies. And we have a motion, Mr. Uben. Is there a second? Second, Mr. Grove. Is there any discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, no. So ordered. And several months ago, this board made a decision for the media honor roll from the VSBA. So the Virginia School Board Association publishes this resolution, which I'm not going to read to you, but it basically is it's a whereas kind of document that says whereas in each community The public schools are shaped by the community to provide the most appropriate, effective education for children who attend those schools. It's hard to read. But what we find is that the news media plays a critical role in getting that information out. And so this board decided 2 months ago, I believe, to present this resolution to Blue Ridge Independent and also to the Rappahannock News. And we have these.
I have to send those to the SBA, and then they'll send me a certificate. So at the next board meeting, I will be invited.
So we'll present this at the next board meeting. So these are signed by the board and things. And so we need an approval that we are going to. We need a motion that we're going to approve these resolutions. Motion, Mr. Rubin. Second. Oh, who was the motion? Mr. Grove, sorry. Motion, Mr. Grove. Second, Mr. Rubin. Is there any discussion?
It's great, we have two papers that are really reporting on the schools more and more. People know what's going on. It's amazing for this small community to have so much interest.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. So ordered. Is there any new business from the board? The next regularly scheduled school board meeting is August the 13th, and we had discussed having this at our CES. Are we going to be ready to do that? You know what? Here's what we're going to do.
The plan is that it will be.
We're going to have that meeting at our CES somewhere, and our hope is we are.
We can get a tour anyway.
Our hope is that we're going to be doing it in the new pavilion in the courtyard, and if not, we'll be in the gym somewhere. Yeah, that'll be our plan. Okay.
Speaking of the courtyard, I did have one bit of news that you received a $10,000 application grant also. So it's coming in. There's a lot of private money into our school.
That's great. Well, thanks for that. All right, so that's the next meeting, next scheduled meeting. And at this time, we are going to, we'll recess to give you time to exit, because we're going to reestablish closed session and conclude our closed session business for this evening, after which time we'll make motions about various things in the personnel report, I'm sure, and then we'll come back together and adjourn. How long are we going to be in closed session? It could be an hour. It could be 20 minutes, it could be an hour, so you're going to hang out. You're going to hang out for I don't know how long. But we will, if you have questions about that, we'll make sure that the results of that discussion will get out tomorrow through the media in some fashion. All right? All right? Good. So we'll recess at this time so we can resume our closed session. Say goodnight.
Can we get more fruit?
Grab some fruit. Well, it was a good guess.
Well, from the last time I went to the clock to now, it was 43 minutes.
All right.
They'll tell you when you're live.
You can give me the thumbs up. Cameron says thumbs up. Luke, you got thumbs up?
I'm good, I'm rolling.
All right, well, we've just come out of closed session. We also certified that only things related to the motion to go into closed session were discussed during closed session. And now we are to make a motion concerning the slate personnel report that was provided to us this evening. And at this point, we'll entertain a motion that we approve the slate as it was presented to us this evening, with the exception of the Director of Fine Arts position. That would be the motion. If somebody would make that motion. Was it clear? Am I clear? So we have a motion, Mr. Rubin. Is there a second?
Second, I'll
Second, Ms. Meyer. Any discussion? With the exception, by putting the exception in for the Director of Fine Arts, it implies that the current opening would be posted.
Meaning that we will post.
You're going to be posting a position for a RCS band director, drama director. The scope will be expanded, but that will be the position. So that's the motion. Everybody understand?
RCES band
RCES
/ drama director.
All right. Everybody understand? All in favor, let it know, saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. So ordered. Okay. Motion to adjourn. Motion moved. Second, Mr. Grove. Second, Mr. Grove. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. So ordered. Meeting adjourned. 9:44.
So there was a secondary plan?
Secondary plan is the original plan.
Okay. So if no one's found, there is a